All right, for Betty's information, since you were here late, we had to stand it, but we flipped coins for position.
Okay.
I believe you're third. Is that correct? Who's second? There's she. You're second. Is she third?
Yes.
Okay, you were last, right?
Yeah, I'm the last.
You're last. Okay, so you're third.
But just in full disclosure, it wasn't really flipping a coin. It was a virtual coin.
Or as a virtual, yeah. Thank you very much. We gotta make sure we're transparent with everything that we do. I appreciate that very much. So Tommy Balez is also a candidate for commissioner. So Tommy, if you would come up here and speak to us.
Thanks for having me. Really glad to be here. So as you mentioned, my name's Tommy Balez. I've lived in Cypress for 9 years now. I'm married with 4 kids. We're married to my wife, Lindsay. We have 4 children, 10, 8, 5, and 2, so we're going to be here for a long time. I'm VP of Operations for a large oil field service company. So we have about a $300 million a year revenue stream and $85 million a year CapEx budget. So I came to learn about the ESD, kind of like a lot of y'all. I was surprised about it. I didn't know much about it. A friend of mine who's a fireman brought up some concerns he had with the way the ESD was functioning. Said, hey, you should go to some ESD meetings. I went to 2 or 3 of them before I decided to run. And at those meetings, I was kind of shocked at how the interaction between the ESD, certain commissioners and the fire department works, because to me, the ESD is just there to do a couple things. The ESD is there to set the tax rate, set a budget, and then set the long-term plan for the ESD. As I sat in meetings, I was, not to bring up specifics, but it seems like many of the commissioners were more worried about how fire stations or how the fire department is being run. And that concerned me because that's really not the function of an emergency service district if you contract it to another entity. So we contracted to the Cypress Volunteer Fire Department, and it's an amazing organization. As he mentioned, my website and the website of the 2 folks he's running as a slate with, we do think that the volunteers are the best part of our organization, and they do have to be supplemented to some degree. Now, in the future, maybe we will become a full-time staff, but that's an easy thing to say until you look at the budget and you understand that, hiring all the person to man every single fire engine for the entire 24/7, time frame that we want is not something you just can do overnight. Cypress still needs to continue to grow out, and we have an amazing group that does a lot with the tax rates we have. Again, I think Eric mentioned we had a 5-cent tax, one of the lowest in ESDs. Most of them are maxed out in most places. So we have an amazing situation, and we have time to grow and figure out how exactly we're going to get there. So, I was concerned with how some of the commissioners were handling their interactions with the fire department. I was concerned with transparency. I'd go to these meetings, and there'd be discussions about important agenda items, important meeting notes, and there's nothing on a board, there's no presentations. If you've been to a school board meeting, here in town, there's PowerPoints up there that show everything that's being discussed in the meeting, but nothing is shown to the public in these meetings that you go to. Nothing's ever really on the website. You kind of have to fight tooth and nail to get open records requests. So, things that should be for a public entity should be really easy or not. And then finally, another thing that was concerning is I have no idea what the plan is strategically for the Cypress Volunteer Fire Department. We're on a month-to-month contract. There's no plans for where's the next station. There's no plans for, are we going to go full-time? Are we going to stay part-time? If you go look on the website, there's no plans for any of this stuff. And then, the last disconcerting thing is that we're building fire stations today that the fire department has very little to no input in. And that's really concerning to me. The ESD should be working with the fire department, who's an amazing group of people, to build our fire stations and not just decide because they have experience, as firemen to build these houses. We need to work as a consensus group with the fire department, with the public, with new business owners in the area. What do they need? When the Bridgeland part of the town gets built out, right where I live in Bridgeland, we're going to have larger buildings, we're going to have office spaces, we're going to have manufacturing. What are we going to need to draw businesses to Cypress? Because I hate commuting down 290. I love for my work to be right here. So if we can make that happen, what do we need from our emergency services to cover that? And if anything else, every time I go to hang out with the Cypress Volunteer Fire Department, I'm more and more impressed. And there's work to be done, but we're blessed with what we got here in this area. And I think that we should remember that these guys and gals put their lives on the line for us, and volunteer or full-time, that's what we have to respect. And at the end of the day, you know, wherever we go in the future, it's gonna be based on the needs of our community. And remember that's the most important thing, is these people are putting their lives on the line for us every day, and we should respect that in everything we do. So, thank you guys for having me. I take as many questions as you got, or whatever you'd like.
Questions?
Question.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, do you know if Cyfair operates in other ESDs besides
No.
number 9?
So the ESD 9 contracts with the Cypress Volunteer Fire Department just for our ESD. And the way ESDs work is an ESD can run the fire department. The way our ESD is set up though is we contract with our fire department and they run everything from the day-to-day operations.
So, what are the pros and cons of ESD 9 actually operating Cyfair?
There's a lot. It's expertise. I think there's just like in a business, there's people who run the operations and people who look at the long-term picture. So I personally like the way it's set up, where the ESDs should be handling the strategic long-term goals of the district, whereas the volunteer fire department takes care of what they need to do. There are some benefit issues. I think maybe somebody mentioned it earlier. Like because the volunteer fire department is its own entity, they can't participate in certain pension funds that the state of Texas, like the HFD, has. So if ESD 9 took over the fire department, some of the full-time folks would have some different benefits that they're not available today. So there's pros and cons to both. My personal opinion is that the way it's set up is good, and we have like an executive board, and then you have the day-to-day operations.
So does the contract specify how many full-time people are you have in contract with for Cyfair?
I don't know that, honestly. I've never seen the contract, so no, I don't.
We have a question over here?
Make sure I understood you
Yes, ma'am.
correctly. Because by what you said, it sounds to me like you're running to represent the fire department and represent the taxpayers.
No, I'm here to represent the taxpayers. I just have a massive amount of respect for the fire department. Like, that's what I want to convey, is that I think the fire department's amazing. I want transparency. I have a concern that 4 years ago we had a $16 million budget, and now we have a $55 million budget. So we're blessed with a large amount of revenue. Do we need all of that spent there? And part of that problem, I can't answer that question, is because there's no long-term plan. How many more stations do we need? If the plan is to go full-time, then how do we get there? So those are my issues as a taxpayer, the transparency, from the long-term plan, from the taxing revenues. Yeah, we have a 5-cent tax. That may be too high. If we have a budget surplus, which we do now, why can't we go lower? We have a sales tax and we have a property tax. So those are the things that we need to balance. But before we get anywhere close to that answer, we have to first figure out what do we need to grow out Cyfair. And then once that's done, we figure out the long-term budget, the 5, the 10, the 20-year plan, and we set the tax rate accordingly for what the Cyfair area needs.
If you're talking about transparency, when the day-to-day operations is all a nonprofit, the taxpayers have no transparency. All we can get is what the ESD does.
No, I mean, there's no reason that the Cyfair Volunteer Department shouldn't have the same transparency as its
Well, by
government
law,
agency.
they go to the Attorney General and block it.
Mhm. Okay. Wow.
Just want to see, do you have firefighting in your background?
I do not. Nope, I
Do
don't.
you have, did you tell us, just in general, what is your background?
So I work for an oilfield service company. So I deal with field operations. Over my group, I have safety operations for all my employees. I have safety responsibility for all my employees, all the people on the locations that we service. We deal with explosives, we deal with radiation, high pressure incidents, DOT stuff. So very similar to this. It's not fire background and stuff. But again, I go back to the job of a commissioner is to set a long-term budget and for the taxpayer say, hey, this is what we're doing and how we're doing it, and let the fire department run the day-to-day operations within the budget that you've set as the taxpayer and the tax agency.
Yeah, pardon me if I sound a little like Columbo, but I'm wrestling with a problem here. I need your help.
Okay?
You are one of 3 people running on a slate or a ticket
Yeah.
for this commission, right?
Yes, sir?
And you're going to represent us taxpayers to have fiduciary responsibility to make sure our money is well spent in
Yes, sir.
procuring emergency services.
Yes, sir.
Right? Okay. Now, early on in this race, Amy Ramon, who heads up the Cyfair Volunteer Fire Department and the board, began endorsing the 3 of you, okay, online, in various means. She even used the fire department logo, which she's now taken down to
Okay.
endorse you three candidates. So here's my problem. My problem
Okay.
is, we'll deal with Amy separately because she's broken laws that we'll have taken care of by the IRS.
You do have a question here, right, Alan?
I do. Help me understand why I should vote for a slate of people who will arrive to their office with a pre-existing conflict of interest.
Well, I don't understand the conflict of interest, maybe you can help me understand, but first, we're a slate of people who, one, want to get our names and get elected. We are very similar backgrounds. Me and Martin have known each other for a long time. Jessica, we've met over the last couple months. So we are pooling our money to get more advertising, things of that nature. If I win, they don't win, that's so be it.
Here's
No,
the
hold on,
conflict.
I'd like to finish my statement. I've met Amy once. I went, just like I've met David once, I've met a couple of y'all once or twice. I'm trying to get to know as many people as possible during the election. I've met Amy once. She's been to a couple of our events. I've seen her at the meetings, but if she likes our Facebook page, isn't that her right as a citizen to endorse us? If it's not, I don't know why it wouldn't be, because she hasn't come out and said, I think Tommy Balez, Jessica Rivas, and Martin Martinez are the people that you should vote for, and gone around station to station. I've never been to a fire station. I'm not going to go to a fire station to do any electioneering. I'm going to meetings like this. We've had 2 meetings here, neutral sites, with nothing other than that. So I don't understand the conflict of interest. Should I not be allowed to have firefighters endorse us or vote for us?
There is a huge conflict of interest.
Okay,
When
fair.
the fire chief, using the fire department logo, takes a preferential stand for one slate of candidates. That's a conflict of interest.
Well, that's fair enough. I can't speak to her choices on her
Hold on,
Facebook
now let me
page.
finish.
Well, no,
Now,
I
the
mean,
issue is,
okay.
you want hands off the fire department. So if the fire department gets a $55 million budget, and Amy decides to make her salary the same as the Cy-Fair superintendent, you're gonna say hands off, because that's fire department business.
Well, no, actually, that's not what I said. What I do believe is that within a budget, there are constraints. I don't think I'm writing a blank check to anyone. What I'm saying is the fire department should propose a budget to us within its salaries, CapEx spending, the day-to-day stuff that I deal with at my business. Like my executive committee is not, at my business is gonna go say, hey, Tommy walks in, today I think I should make $600,000. You're not gonna let that happen.
Okay, so
Listen.
you're telling us that you're not in the back pocket of Amy Ramon.
No,
Okay.
like I said, I've given our PAC fund, if you'd like a copy of our PAC funding, we're happy to give it to you, our financials. We're not hiding anything. We've had events, she's gone to them. David's come to our events, other folks in this room have come to our events. It's real easy to make accusations like that, but I mean, I have met Amy one time in a private meeting and asked her questions about the fire department, how it was run, because I wanted to learn more. That was it. And any of you in this room, if you called and asked her that, she would do the same for you as taxpayers. So I don't know anything about Amy and the relationship she has with the current ESD board, other than it seems very confrontational. That's all I can say to it, and that is disheartening from a taxpayer, because things don't get done when things are that confrontational. I think we should all work together, and at the end of the day, the ESD board, if I'm elected or not, makes the final decision on the budget, and then they have to live within that budget, and then that's how this works. It's no different than any other business organization. I mean, like I said, but if you want to give me your email, I'll send you my financials today. I mean, you can get them anytime you want from the open records request. But,
We have, thank you.
okay, fair enough.
Shane, did you have a question?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
My question was to be, are you one that is willing to look at the contracts and look at even minute things and go against your peer groups and see if you see a more efficient manner and way to do things within the realm of this?
Of course.
I mean, I know we say of course, but
So I guess trying to understand, would I be willing to argue a case that the other 4 commissioners don't agree with for a more efficient way to spend our money as taxpayers?
right.
Yes, of course, that would be my job if I was elected. I mean, I do that every day in my day-to-day job. We have, I don't run my company without any sort of input from my bosses. I give them my inputs. If we disagree as grown adults. We have a way of going, and then either the board of directors or the president of our company tells me what I want. But I have no problem bringing up issues that I feel strongly about. It's all about doing it in a respectful, concise manner where you have facts to back it up. Not just going out and saying, hey, one thing or another.
Because I mean, when I meet, sometimes as we hear, well, this is the way it's always been done, instead of really diving, it takes a lot of time to really dive down and look at, well, why was it done this way
Well, I think Eric has a great point he mentioned earlier. The way it's always been done works only for so long, and there's certain issues that have happened recently that should be things we discuss as part of our volunteer fire department, right? The massive growth of Cyfair should be discussed. Are we going to be able to call it? Because I would be, to the question you asked you, I would be upset if my house burned down and there's a station right down the road. Now, I don't know what the right answer is to do that, because there's all kinds of, it's easy to say, hey, I want a full-time staff today, but down the road, maybe that's where we go. But right now, we do a very good job, but maybe we need to reevaluate how we're doing it. Like, maybe we need to go from 4 full-time to 6, maybe from 6. I don't know the answer to that, and that's when you get down into details and work with the fire department to figure out what's realistically the way to staff it. Because right now, we're building a fire station in Bridgeland, and we can't staff it with volunteers. Now, there's 2 ways of looking at it. Well, that means that we need to go full-time. Well, maybe we need to look at recruitment. Me and Mike were discussing that earlier. I live in Bridgeland. I have never seen one ad for recruiting firemen. So, I mean, that goes for, from the Facebook pages to driving around. So maybe there are plenty of people out here who want to be volunteer firemen. We just do a bad job recruiting. I know that's my biggest problem right now in the oil field is I can't find enough people to do stuff. So we have to find new and elaborate ways to try to recruit people. So I totally agree with you that, just because it's the way it's always been done, if we continue with that, we only have 2 stations here in Cyfair, right? Like, we've grown and grown and grown, especially in the 9 years I've been here. I mean, Barker Cypress was kind of like the edge of Houston, now it's Waller, right? I mean, it's amazing what just in the last decade's happened. Sir?
My question is, as a Bridgeland resident, what information have you been able to see before you were in this election? What information were you receiving or had access to or came across your computer screen or your mailbox about the ESD?
Very little. Just like most people in the room, I had no idea what the ESD was. And I feel pretty much like an idiot because on the bottom of my taxes every year it says ESD, and I just assumed it was something with the school board. But we all have think about, probably 500-600 people decided who set your tax rate for your house on the last election. And so if nothing else, I appreciate you all having us to at least raise the awareness of this election, because we need to have more people involved in a town the size of Corpus Christi. That's a great way of looking at it. Than 500 people deciding what the tax rate is on my house and what that money goes to and what. I think this is an amazing, amazing area of town, and I think at the end of the day, we need to raise the awareness of this. I mean, we complain about the lack of turnout for the school board election, and this was a 1/10 of that. Like, that's embarrassing for a bunch of people who really care about our community. And so if nothing else, I hope more people come out. If I can help by doing that, by raising awareness, it's great. I hope to win with Jessica and Martin. If we don't, we don't, and we're going to continue to be supporting not only the fire department, ESD, and the Texas Tea Party, so Cypress Texas Tea Party.
So if you're elected, what will you do to increase communications to Bridgeland residents?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. I think we don't do a great job of communicating anything other than news via the ESD Facebook page, Twitter page, emails. There's probably an email blast that could go out. There's a lot of different ways of communicating, but right now I think it's just retweets of Facebook pages of other districts more than anything. I follow as much of the ESD that I can find, and it's mostly just, hey, by the way, this, hey, by the way, this, and it's never, hey, the only thing that really comes up most often is when the ESD election is, board meetings are, and when those change and how that goes. I mean, that's not enough transparency in my view. So the website needs to be continually updated. It's really not right now. There's some things on there, the high important things that are required by law. But at the end of the day, like the PowerPoint presentations from the architect never go up. The meeting agenda notes, all those things, they're never posted. They're not until after the meeting, if they're posted at all. So,
Are you aware of on the ESD website, what information is available about this current election?
there's 0 to none.
0 to none.
Yeah, so
That is correct.
So me and David both, we went through the Opens Records request to try to just get people's names and invite people. I gave David my PAC financials last night. You guys, anybody in this room wants to have them? Great. There's no secrets here. We're just 3 people who are business members of the community who live here that want to do right by the community and do a good job. And at the end of the day, that's all we're trying to do. There's no agendas. There's no like, I'm not out to take over the fire department. I'm out to do what I think the fire department and the ESD is a group that works well together. and an ESD that looks at it from a strategic viewpoint, sets the budget, sets the capital expenditure, buys the land that it needs, and then from there, we move on and let the firemen do the fireman's job. And if somebody wants to get involved with that, they should run for the fire department board and be a part of that group, I think. That's just my opinion. Yes, sir.
I'd just like to,
Yes, sir.
your association with Martin and Jessica
Mhm.
before all this election.
So Martin, we actually work out at the same CrossFit gym. His wife owns it it's in off House and Hole. CrossFit's the name of it too. And so we've known each other for 2 or 3 years. And then through a mutual friend, we met Jessica, one of my hunting buddies. And so I have not known Jessica as long as I've known Martin by any means, but I
No
definitely.
business relationships?
Oh, not at all. No, I work in the oil field. Martin he's a private businessman who owns an electrical distributor. And then Jessica, as David mentioned, is COO of Memorial Herman up in Cypress. And she's also, full disclosure, she's on the volunteer fire department board right now. So she knows a lot more than I do about the day-to-day operations. She knows quite a bit. So,
Thank you.
but no problem. Great question.
Okay.
Great. Thank you all. And if we got flyers.